call this September 2nd, 2025 Planning and Zoning Regular Meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please be sure your devices are silenced. Commissioner Pemberton, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is roll call. Would the deputy clerk please call the roll?
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Verhey?
Here.
Pemberton?
Here.
Hornseth?
Present.
Hubbard?
Here.
Sullivan?
Here.
Charbonneau is excused, and Chair Griswold.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comments on any subject except those items scheduled for a public hearing. Those 4 public hearing items include a rezone in Forest Acres, an amendment of city code definitions for animal shelter and veterinary services, an amendment of city code definitions for commercial building, apartment, and mixed-use development, and an amendment of the sign code. I expect the public to remain quiet and respectful of the speakers throughout this meeting and to refrain from clapping or talking. Deputy Clerk, has anyone signed in to speak?
There is no one signed in.
Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on any subject except those for the public hearing? Go ahead, come up. Please state your name and whether or not you live inside or outside city limits, and you have 3 minutes.
Becky Dunn, I live inside the city, and I wanted to remind everybody that everybody up here is volunteers and put extensive hours into any decision that is made. So be respectful of that, and thank you for showing up, because everybody up there appreciates people showing up and speaking. From what I've been told from people up there, we want to hear you. So, second of all, I am looking at housing from a different angle that isn't talked too much about. Seward can be the leader of many things. We almost had that huge heat pump thing in there. We have that huge backup battery for the cruise ship terminal coming in. Rainbow sidewalk. We have on-site consumption for marijuana. Why not open up the conversation? It's a big conversation though, not just statewide, not just citywide, but we have the highest rate of low-income housing apartments in town. So how does that affect us? I announced on the radio that somebody had apartments available, and I listed what she had and her number. She called me and said, "Thank you, Becky. I finally asked after the 6th person called me where they're getting this information." And a couple days later, I ran into her and I said, "I'm glad you got your apartments built." She said, "No, I didn't. Nobody met the income requirements." Or should I say the lack of income requirements. You have to have a real low income to get into those apartments. So this is a terrible place to put people in. They're being held down. How would you like to be a single mom and lose your free phone, your food stamps, your free housing, or your low income housing, health insurance if you get even a part-time job? This also cripples our employment opportunities in town, or the employers. So I have one right now. I only had time to contact one. That's just because she was returning a U-Haul. She said I could even give her cell phone number if anybody wants it. But Sheena Anthony said that she has one bedroom apartment, 3 2-bedrooms apartments, and 1 3-bedroom apartment. I nervous, so I forgot what the apartment building was. But that's just one of the low-income apartment buildings in town. Imagine if we could utilize these spaces for employees, for doctors, for nurses, for traveling nurses, for teachers. So that is, so if anybody wants to know what apartment building is, I'm going to start a series of interviews on this too, teaming up with somebody else, very excited about it. And people are willing to talk, and I'm surprised I haven't had anybody say no that is scheduling interviews yet on the subject. But I think we need to find out what it takes to get that income level lowered. Nobody started my timer. I could talk for 3 more minutes.
I think you do.
Thank you for your honesty. You probably put the time on.
Good catch.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda and consent agenda. I need a motion to approve and a second. Please raise your hand to be acknowledged. June,
I'll make a motion to approve.
and a second.
I'll second.
Claire. Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda and consent agenda? Looks good. Okay. Deputy Clerk, would you please take the roll call vote on the agenda and consent agenda?
Okay, voting on the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Verhey?
Yes.
Forsyth?
Yes.
Pemberton?
Yes.
Hubbard? Yes. Sullivan?
Yes.
And Chair Griswold?
Yes.
Okay. And on the agenda and consent agenda are the approval of the August 5th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes.
Thank you. And next up is the city administration report. Would the staff please give a report?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Griswold. Full house and lots on the agenda, so I'll be brief and just have one item I wanted to bring to the attention to the commission and the public. Our GIS technician has been working on a really cool project. It is a new public map viewer that combines several different map layers all in kind of one interactive map. And so, right now you have to go to the borough to get some of your property information. The city has zoning information, a bunch of different maps separate out on our website. She's kind of combined them into one. And so right now we're kind of in the testing phase. And so the city staff, I sent them out an email recently, and I just sent you all as a commissioner just before this meeting an email to play around with it and test it out. So Selena's looking for usability feedback. And so especially for the commission, the zoning map, there's a active CUP map layer in there, where the subdivisions are, city-owned property, short-term rentals, like where the different regulations are based on zoning district, even the new overlays for building height are now in there. So a lot of features that you all use as a commission, plus many, many more in that map as well. And so she's looking for feedback by Friday, September 12th from staff and commissioners, and then once she takes that feedback and updates it, we will have that available for the public to test as well. So if anyone's interested in kind of playing around with the maps, if you like maps, we'll get feedback from the public and then have hopefully a final version ready for the public to use from here on out, so you don't have to kind of go to multiple different areas for different map features. They'll all be in one. So that's what I got. Thank you.
It sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next is the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commissioner report by Karina England. Is Karina here?
So I don't believe she was planning on coming. We requested if she had any additional information to add, along with our spreadsheet that will be provided in every packet, and she said she didn't have any additional information. So the spreadsheet has been updated on page 11, and you'll see a couple of pending plats there. The 4th of July Park replat is pending, of course, on the submittal of the Spring Creek Park replat, and we're just waiting for the surveyor to update the replat from what the commission recommended for changing the name, and then it will go to city council. So it's still in the process there. And then the Marathon Edition replat is pending. It looks like it'll be scheduled for an October meeting with the borough. And then the other most recent plats at the bottom of the Excel spreadsheet are still in internal review at the borough.
Very good. Thank you. I really like being informed on where these things are in the system, because sometimes it takes a really long time. Okay, thanks for that. Next on the agenda is public hearings. First on the agenda is a public hearing for Resolution 2025-027, starting on page 12 of the packet. Deputy Clerk, would you please read the title into the record?
Resolution 2025-027 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council approval of the land use amendment to rezone 2400 Diamond Boulevard, 2400 Birch Street, 2404 Birch Street, 2406 Birch Street, 2411 Spruce Street, 2500 Birch Street, and 2501 Spruce Street from a rural residential zoning district to a multi-family zoning district.
Thank you. Does any commissioner need to declare a conflict of interest on this resolution? Okay, good. Would the staff please provide a short summary?
Yes, thank you, Chair Griswold. So an application has been submitted to rezone 7 properties located between Spruce Street, Birch Street, and Diamond. And this application was submitted per the stipulations in Seward City Code that states that amendment to change zoning and land use district boundaries may be initiated by petition of a majority of the property owners in the area to be amended. So there's 7 properties, and you'll see in the packet that there are 4 signatures from the property owners. 3 property owners have not put in their approval of this rezone and are opposed to it. Also in City Code, a rezone is required to be larger than 1 acre of land. These 7 properties are 3.7 acres large. If you look at page 19, you'll see the zoning map and the area. So this specific area, these 7 properties are zoned rural residential. The application is requesting to rezone these 7 properties to multifamily residential. There is multifamily residential zoning to the east of Spruce Street, and then the small portion of R2 zoning to the west of Birch Street. But primarily, the surrounding zoning districts are rural residential with some resource management to the north and then institutional and park to the south. So it is within the Commission's role to review the application and then provide a recommendation to City Council. City Council is the only body then that would have the power to enact this amendment to rezone these properties.
I would like a clarification on that. I understand that if planning and zoning says no, that process stops here. But if it wants to proceed to council, it would have to go through those same things. A council member would have to bring it forward as an ordinance and then go through a similar process. Is that
correct?
Understanding?
That is correct. So if the commission voted to decline this application and not recommend it to City Council, then it would stop at this level and not move forward. Staff would not move it forward. However, if City Council member wanted to sponsor it and thought it was worth sponsoring, then a City Council member could bring it forward, as City Council members may do for any sort of ordinance or amendment to code. And then it would go through a similar public hearing process. It would be for introduction and then the public hearing and then a similar vote with City Council.
Thank you for that clarification. It's a confusing process sometimes. Okay. Would the applicant wish to speak on the rezone application? That would be you.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm signed in and I would like to stay in the order that I'm in, please.
Let me tell you the benefits before you decline. You would have up to 10 minutes to speak at this time. And if you wish to reserve some of that 10 minutes for a rebuttal after everyone has spoken, you could use your remaining time. So you have an option.
Thank you, Chair Griswold. I would like to make my comment then.
Okay.
Casey Warner, inside city limits, Seward Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. I am speaking as a private citizen and not representing any positions I may hold. I would like to respectfully respond to concerns raised about my application to rezone several lots in Forest Acres from rural residential to R3. I was able to contact individuals who had signed the petition in opposition to this rezone. After our conversation, I believe that individuals who were asked to sign the petition were given false information. And I'll say that again. I believe they were given false information. Because of that, I believe those spearheading the petition were able to gather more signatures than they would have if accurate information had been provided. Those spearheading the petition also refused to engage in an open dialogue with me. I understand that many neighbors value the quiet family nature of Forest Acres and the larger lot sizes that have defined the neighborhood for decades. I want to be very clear. There was never any intention of tearing down the home where I live with my 2 children to build condos or large apartment complexes. My plan is simple. I would like to build a garage with a 2-bedroom apartment that can be used for long-term tenants and eventually my aging parents when that time arises. When Forest Acres was first developed in the 40s through the 80s, Seward had more affordable single-family housing and larger parcels were very common. Times have changed. Today, we have a shortage of affordable long-term rentals and middle housing. Rezoning to R3 will allow for modest growth, help balance those needs, and still respect the existing character of our neighborhood. I know there is concern that this change could open the door to more nightly rentals. That is simply not true. Seward City Code applies the same restrictions across all residential zones. RR, R1, R2, R3, UR. Only owner-occupied homes may operate short-term rentals, and no more than 50% of the bedrooms with a maximum of 3 rooms can be rented out in this way. Whole house nightly rentals are not allowed in residential districts. Rezoning to R3 does not change these. The same things for short-term rentals can happen in an RR as they can in an R3. My application is not about vacation rentals. My intent is to provide stable, long-term housing for Seward families and for my family in the future. This change is especially important for undeveloped parcels. In RR zoning, the maximum lot size is 20,000 square feet with a maximum coverage of 30%. In R3, the minimum is 3,000 to 9,000 square feet with 40% coverage, allowing them to be developed responsibly, helping address the shortage of year-round housing. 2 parcels in this rezone request, 2,400 Birch Street at 19,602 square feet and 2,400 Diamond Boulevard at 11,761 square feet, do not meet the 20,000 square foot requirement and are currently out of compliance. Rezoning to R3 would bring them into compliance. Traffic is another concern. This part of Forest Acres already experiences heavy traffic due to the Army Rec Camp, the campground, nearby schools, and the newer Hilltop subdivision. Hilltop in particular has brought in large construction vehicles, including Metco trucks, concrete mixers, and will continue to increase traffic after development is completed. In addition to a small number of long-term households will add only a very limited number of vehicles, 1 or 2 per residence within this rezoning district, which is minimal compared to what the area already experiences and will experience with a new Hilltop development. But I still argue that children will be able to walk and bike to neighbors' homes. There'll be more year-round families that can actually improve the safety of the children that live there because we can all look out for one another. I also want to address some misinformation. Planning and Zoning has already recommended and approved the rezoning to R3 east of Spruce Street in recent years, along with a 48-foot height limit for parcels east of Spruce and north of Hemlock, with developers stating they plan to build large apartment complexes. Where was the neighborhood when this was happening? This application is in line with Seward's comprehensive plan and strategic plan, which call for increased housing opportunities, infill development, and support for stable year-round workforce. Some neighbors have expressed frustration about the timing of the public notice. I value transparency and open dialogue. I wish there had been more direct communication with me during this process as the applicant, and I welcome continued conversations. My goal is not to divide the neighborhood, but to work together on a responsible solution to Seward's housing challenges. I value Forest Acres, and I share the same goals as my neighbors: safe streets, a strong community, and housing that supports families. Rezoning these lots to R3 will not increase nightly rentals or bring large-scale developments. That's already been approved. It will bring 2 non-compliant lots into alignment with city code, create modest opportunities for new year-round housing, and strengthen Seward's ability to retain families who want to live and work here year-round. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So by my calculation, she has 4 minutes left?
Yes.
Okay. You would have 4 minutes for rebuttal if you wish after this. Okay. Thank you. I will now open the public hearing. Deputy Clerk, has anyone signed in to speak?
Yes. The first one is Ann Wright.
Okay. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. After all the speakers have spoken, a person may speak for a second time for no more than 1 minute. Please sit at the table, speak clearly into the microphone, state your name and whether you live inside or outside city limits.
Yes, my name is Ann Wright. Excuse me. I have lived in Seward for approximately 56 years. I reside in the city limits, and I live on Birch Street. And I'm here in opposing to have that rezoned because I have seen many changes that have come about through the years. And when we start in and we start to put multifamily, a lot of people want single-family dwellings. And I've been approached also on that. So when it comes to taking and putting in multifamily dwellings, I hope that if people are putting it in, they're thinking about traffic, children, and all as far as taking and having for an area for people to be outside, and they have an area that they can be able to be outside. And also, many times I've seen when the structures are starting to be built, they sometimes get to be cracker boxes. And then funding is less, then less things are done for the building site, and then things are less developed then. And it really bothers me because I've seen this happen throughout Seward and not just in Forest Acres. And when the homes are built, and it's been a lot of times for the monetary of an individual. And I understand the housing and the need, but we have been a rural residential, and I just feel that we need to have concern, and also, as it was said, for nightly rentals. I've seen other places where nightly rentals have come in. And so when it comes to the multifamily structures that have been built, and then when it comes, I hope that the council members, if it does go, and it goes back to the council members, I've seen a lot of council members that have gotten on the council because for their own personal, not vendettas, but their agendas, I should say. And then the people, I hope that they think of the people for the community and the community of their concern. And there's also the one lot that is in Forest Acres that was going to be built on, and the city rejected anything being built on the one lot. So I really do hope that somebody will really think about this, and there's no vendettas. I realize that we need to have families and dwellings, but like I said, I've been approached, and the single-family dwelling has been more of a concern than a multifamily. Thank you. And thank you for your concern for being here.
Thank you for coming. Next.
This is Sam Kazuba.
Good evening. My name is Sam Kashuba. I live in the neighborhood in question. We are brand new. We just purchased our house in May, and we've been in town for a year, planning on staying for a long time. But we bought that house because we wanted something that was spacious, small neighborhood. You know, when we were here renting, we were really close to townhouses, apartment buildings, and the traffic there was a lot higher than what it is even in this neighborhood. I understand that Diamond Boulevard gets a lot of traffic, but we're not on the end of that. But we are right next to one of those other lots, and if that becomes multifamily housing, that's going to increase the traffic. In looking at the map, there are, and driving around town, there are a lot of empty lots in this town. There's a lot of opportunities there to build multifamily housing. And I don't think it should be in this area that's been single-family housing for such a long time. Another thing, as far as this whole thing with with misinformation, I couldn't tell you if that happened. Even before I was approached, I was already against this thing. And it's unfortunate if that is the case, but that has not swayed my opinion. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And next?
Sarah Tugas.
Hello everyone, I am Sarah Tugas. I am inside the city limits and I live at 2612 First Street. I am one of the ones that spearheaded the petition. I kept my petition professional. I did not make it emotional, and I did look at it as a whole, to the point where I kept the petition and put the resolution on there. I commend Kathy for what she wants to do for her parents, but we have to look at the neighborhood as a whole. We have to look at these 7 lots as a whole. So, I had heard she wanted to build something for her parents, and that is it. So, I spoke with so many people, I heard. I'm kind of excited that I was between you guys and them in the get-go, because there was a lot of upset people, including myself, but I am here to talk about the neighborhood as a whole. So, my speech. Good evening. My name is Sarah Tugas, and I live in the city limits at 2612 Birch Street. Sometimes I refer to myself as the self-appointed mayor of Birch Street. But if you live on Birch Street, you will know that Lloyd Olson is actually the mayor of Birch Street. The man knows everything. I am here tonight to respectfully oppose Resolution 2025-027. In Alaska, there is no question that we need more multiplex housing. As a lifelong Alaskan, this has been the case for as long as I can remember. With our shifting and seasonal population, there will always be a demand for transitional apartment-style living. And yes, Seward is in need of housing, which I fully support the development of multiplex housing in the areas that are zoned for it. What I cannot support is the rezoning of land currently designated for single-family homes to allow multifamily units. With the need of housing, we must also include single-family homes. Why would we consider taking land away from these neighborhoods when areas already zoned for higher density housing exist? Why add to a problem when we already have a viable solution? These single-family areas represent the dream that so many families have, to put down roots, buy a home with a bit of land, raise their children, and contribute to the year-round fabric of this town. They are the foundation that built our community. Over the years, we have had countless friends and employees who wanted to settle in Seward. They were pre-approved, financially ready, and eager to invest in homeownership. They were committed to their careers here, their families, and our future. Some even wanted to run for council, but they had to leave. Not because they didn't want to be here, but because they couldn't find a home to buy. These are the very people who would have supported our grocery store in the winter, kept our restaurants open, enrolled their children in our schools, and became long-term engaged members of our community. But they couldn't find anything more than a rental, so they could not stay. I recently visited the Habitat for Humanity website, which outlines why single-family homeownership is critical for families, especially children. Here are just a few reasons. Children in homeowner households tend to get better grades, score higher in math and reading, and are more likely to attend college. Stable homeownership reduces the number of school changes, helping kids build long-term relationships with teachers and peers. Homeownership encourages parental involvement, higher educational aspirations, and access to a consistent and supportive environment. Homeownership also improves children's physical and mental health, reducing stress caused by frequent movements and instability. Children raised in owned homes learn financial responsibility, stability, and the value of investing in their future and future generations. My own children are the fourth generation of our family to live in this town, beginning with their great-grandfather who was raised at the Jesse Lee home. Our neighborhood in Forest Acres is a multi-generational neighborhood. It is filled with families where children ride bikes, the kids play at each other's houses, parents take her around the house and yard, and grandparents watch out the window watching the children, reminiscing on the days of when their children were raised in this fabulous neighborhood. There is a reason why so many well-known Seward families have called this neighborhood home. It is the neighborhood that I know, 35-year resident of Forest Acres, Susie Erbach, can't drive home fast enough to see why those two kids are knocking on her door again. It's a neighborhood filled with families and individuals that take pride in their homes, their neighborhood, and the small Alaskan town. Changing the zoning of land currently available for single-family homes will have a snowball effect on this community. We must preserve the opportunity for families to own homes in this town and not limit it further. So yes, build housing, but do where it's zoned. Do not chip away at the future homeownership in Seward by removing the land that could make that dream possible for the next generations of Seward. Thank you.
Close enough. And next.
Steve Fink.
Thank you.
Okay, my name's Steve Fink, and I live on Evergreen Street, about 400 feet from the proposed zoning area. And I've lived in Seward for 25 years. 23 of those years have been in city limits, and 17 in my home on Evergreen, very close to the rezoning area. I grew up in a high-density area in California for most of my life before I moved to Seward, Alaska. And I didn't know my glasses are right here. I moved to Seward specifically because Forest Acres and its rural residential status, which is like peace on earth in comparison to my old lifestyle in California. I absolutely love it there. Now this new proposal opens the door to bring that fire environment back to me and my family after I've worked most of my life to flee that lifestyle environment and to maintain this one here in our neighborhood. I'm strongly opposed to the rezone and any high-density rezone proposals anywhere within Forest Acres neighborhood. I strongly oppose this for many reasons. Here are a few. First off, rezoning in this area will set a precedent for more properties in Forest Acres to be rezoned for high-density housing, ruining the aesthetic and family-friendly atmosphere of our neighborhood. I mean, we're seeing it already. It starts on one spot there, and I didn't know it was that was going to be. I knew it was zoned for high density, but it's the new one, the one that just got changed. I did not know apartment complexes going in there. Now you can see it starting to spread already, so that's no good. This proposal disrespects the homeowners within the adjacent and rezoned area to be subjected to more automobile traffic, foot traffic, less privacy, and more noise. And I strongly oppose government rezoning of a person's property without consent of the property owner. 3 of these property owners have not agreed to the rezoning of their land yet. It might happen anyways. That's terrible. I strongly oppose any profiteering at the expense of the quality of life of the neighbors that will be affected here. The Seward's already filled with high-density housing. There's plenty of it. I know some of it's hard to come by, but we've got lots of it. We don't need more. And lots of homes on small lots that I wouldn't even consider high density. So there's options out there. A lot of us just don't want to give up our homes. We love it here, right? So, high density housing is better suited for downtown areas, which are more walkable and close to the majority of the jobs anyways. And Seward needs to preserve what's left of traditional family neighborhoods within city limits that offer its citizens homes and not just housing. I'm aware of the issues surrounding the workforce housing shortages, and they are being addressed with the Hilltop was about 70 or so small plats up above our neighborhood. They're already under construction right now. Many of them are small plots with low-cost structures being built on them right now as we speak here. There are even more housing developments being built behind Doorway and other outside of city limits. And now I see another one upon there that the applicant pointed out to us. Yeah, crowding out an existing traditional neighborhood is not a viable solution to this problem, and it only harms Seward for those that have families that do not want to live in high-density housing. And then finally, traffic. There are current traffic bottlenecks already on school days, especially on Hemlock, as the school buses and parents dropping off their kids and faculty all accessing all three schools while residents are trying to access the highway on their morning commutes. And we haven't even yet to experience the fallout from the new developments going on up the hill. That's going to be huge already. So even if we're talking 10 more potential residences there squeezed in there, it all makes a difference, and especially it's right there at the bottleneck that we're already dealing with. You're going to add more to that in addition to now proposed apartment complex. Great, right? So, that could be a safety hazard as well. You get anxious people all piled up as they already are, lined up, ready to go to work, or cars coming into school. That intersection there at the highway gets a little hectic sometimes, especially in the winter. It's a little dangerous, and this is going to make it worse. Other than that, also, the applicant wants to add a garage and a little extra space for her family. And I'm having a hard time understanding why that requires the rezoning of all of our neighbors' property. So that's a question I have. I don't know if you guys can answer it later on, but that's a good question, I think. So maybe there's a good answer. I don't know. Otherwise, thank you for listening.
Thank you for your testimony. Next.
Chair,
Excuse me?
excuse me.
What's that?
The timer isn't
I
working.
didn't have a clock.
Sorry.
Can you let Jody know?
Is the timer working?
It is, I just forgot to.
Are you working?
Jen Appel is next.
Thank you so much.
My finger's on the button this time.
She's ready. Thank you. I know, just for everyone, there's a lot going on right there. And so, some people might get a little bonus, but that's okay. Okay, please state your name.
Hi, my name is Jen Apple. I live in Seward, Alaska. I live on 246 Birch Street, one of the properties that is trying to be rezoned. We are opposed. I've lived here for almost 18 years. Sorry, I do have notes. I think everyone's touched on the fact that our kids play on the streets. You see our kids here. This is only a small fraction of the kids that are there, which we love. We love the kids playing on the streets. And if this were to change, it doesn't just change this, it changes the fact, like they've already said, well, one's already changed, so why not change this? Well, then what's to say the next one wouldn't change the next one? It just is the balloon effect of, well, once one changes, then the next, and I just don't want that to happen. It starts to change the integrity of our neighborhood. And our neighborhood is a quiet family neighborhood with residents who enjoy the space that we have. For one, we don't want more Airbnbs, which would be possible. That might not be her intent, but if that were what happened, then that could happen to any properties that were rezoned that. But even if this is about long-term housing, from what I can tell, I actually was looking up on Seward Housing, and we actually have quite a bit of long-term housing available right now. Right now, there's 11 rentals on Seward Housing and one house for sale. 7 of those rentals are actually year-round rentals. I know people are always looking for year-round, and that's actually there. I was on Zillow yesterday, or the day before, and there's 18 homes for sale in Seward on there, and there's quite a few lots for sale. This doesn't even touch all those lots that were just cleared, and they're building all those homes up on the top that's about Doorway, between Doorway and our neighborhood. And then there's also, I guess, 20 tiny houses being built down Nash, from what I've seen. So housing, we have housing, it's happening, that's something that's happening. We don't need to take away our housing, our neighborhood, just for people to add up more housing. If indeed this is just about her wanting housing for her parents, she actually has an entire extra house on her property. Her parents could go there. A garage is not going to help a garage apartment's not going to help an elderly couple because they wouldn't be able to use stairs. So the house that's already on her property would actually be perfect for her parents, and she would not need to be rezoning our entire neighborhood or our entire section of neighborhood just for some garage apartment. Forest Acres is called that for a reason. We have a plethora of trees. And when more homes would be built on there, we would lose some of those trees. So altogether, I'm against this blanket rezoning of the properties. We do not want this to go through, and as you can see from the petition, many of us will do whatever we can to stop that in its tracks. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Randall Johnson.
Good evening, my name is Randall Johnson. I live at 2504 Birch Street. I live in the city. My property borders two of the parcels in the proposed rezoning. I am against this rezoning. I believe that the zoning committee has been sold a bag of lies when it comes to this rezoning. This rezoning does nothing to solve Seward's housing issue. 5 of the current parts of the 7 parcels already contain a single-family residence, and a poll of those homeowners will show that a majority of those homeowners have no intention on they have no desire to have this be rezoned, nor do they have any inclination to tear down their house to build multi-structure houses. This is clearly an attempt by one individual to circumvent rural residential housing regulations on the number of dwellings that can be built on a plot. None of the residents of Birch Street outside of the 3 individuals who signed the proposal want this rezoning. R3 zoning per Alaska status is normally designed to be a buffer between commercial and residential. That buffer already exists with the current R3 zoning that is there, and there is no need to add more to that buffer. Ms. Warner has no intentions on building a structure on her property to help with this housing shortage in Seward. Again, I think that if you were to poll the majority of the residents of Birch, all the residents, not just the ones that live in this proposed area, they will tell you that this rezoning is not needed, nor do they want it. Housing rezoning should be benefited and supported by the entire community and not just benefit one person. And I ask the zoning commission to please deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Casey Warner, would you like to come back for your second one?
Just
Oh, you get to at the end?
at the end.
At the end, okay, sorry. Tim McDonald.
Tim McDonald, City of Seward, inside city limits. I have actually 2 properties, one on Birch and one on Spruce. The one on Birch is an empty lot. There's only 5 houses on Spruce Street, and the ones that are affected by this, I think there's only, 3 on one's an empty lot, so I think there's only 3 besides my empty lot on Birch Street. And you know, it sounds a lot like, I hate to say it, but everybody's prejudiced against poor people. You know, this is the only thing that I can tell that this resolution would do outright is allow duplexes. So it's not like you're going to have apartment buildings or anything like that on there. It's just utilizing the land a little bit more. And also, Spruce Street, you know, doesn't even intrude on any, it goes straight out to, right straight out to the highway. It doesn't even intersect that intersection on whatever the street name is there. So as far as traffic, I think that's a fallacy, and there's no plans for any of those 5 lots. That one person is building on the second lot, which does Virgin Street. At least they've been clearing it, and there's equipment parked on it. But I don't see anything happening real soon. I don't have any plans for it, you know. I mean, if I did, I might put a duplex on that small one. I don't have any plans of it. But I think it's a pretty minor incursion, and we're right on the border of it. Like I said, Spruce Street doesn't intrude at all on Forest Acres, and the rest of it I guess is already zoned and they're gonna start building this coming year on there, and that, I don't know what they've got planned out there, but that definitely is gonna be multifamily housing. So I think it's overblown, you know, how much effect it's gonna have on the neighborhood, traffic, the whole 9 yards. I don't think it's gonna have any effect in the short term. And you might see a couple duplexes in the next 10 years is probably the only thing you're looking at. So, you know, I'm in favor of it, I own it, it doesn't give me any direct immediate benefit. I've only been in this place a year and a half. And it is a nice neighborhood, and I don't want to change the inside of the neighborhood, but I don't think somebody putting a duplex on it is going to do it. They fit right in with everything in there. And so I don't really see why everybody's so upset about it. We have been pushing for more housing in Seward, and there is more people coming in, and you know, you have to accommodate people. Seward is a small place, and there is a lot of residential, single-family neighborhoods in Seward. I mean, they're not all inside city limits, but you've got the big one on Nash Road down Rabbit Run. That's got dozens and dozens of housing. It's probably as big as Forest Acres. And of course, behind Forest Acres, they're building like crazy. That's where your traffic's gonna come from and stuff. Like I said, you're not talking any additional families at the moment, zero. You know, in the next 10 years, you might have 2 more additional families. This is just a small little piece. There's only 5 houses on Spruce Street total, and one on one side of the road and the other 4 on the other side of the road. So it's very rural. And as far as Birch Street, I know that, you know, there's 1 or 2 empty lots on that. One of them's mine. But I don't see the problem with it really. I think all these problems are overblown, and that, you know, it's not going to affect anybody negatively. This is a small piece, and people need it. People need more housing, and if somebody can build a duplex, that's okay. I don't mind living next to a duplex. What, 1 extra car or something like that wouldn't be there anyway. So that's my opinion, that it's overblown, that it's a reasonable request to do it. I signed the thing for my 2 lots, and I think that it's a good thing for Seward. It just gives us a little bit more option. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Leighton Radner.
Leighton Radner, and I'm at 225 3rd Avenue. I am not in the immediate affected area, but I did want to comment on a few things. Most of the time when I make comment, it's always from an economic angle. This sort of is too. I kind of heard some of what I heard Sam say early on in regards to somebody who just recently bought property or bought a lot or is sort of new to that area. They're in a situation now where they've bought something that is ultimately changing right after purchase, or people who have lived there, who built sort of a community up there, who is now going to have sort of the rug pulled out from under them. I don't like the idea of that. And I know there's people who say there won't be drastic changes. I came originally, I was raised in Big Lake. I had family here going back to the 70s, but I was raised there. I grew up in a 500 square foot cabin on an acre of land with 7 people. So very tight quarters, different kind of environment, and you know, we left Big Lake in big part because more people started showing up. They rezoned massive swaths of property there, and they built apartments which had never been there before. They built fourplexes and duplexes all over the place, and what was little neighborhoods became little areas of rental houses, and it lost a lot of character and brought a lot more people and all the things that many people have said here today already. And so I sort of paired a lot of those same things, so I don't want to take up too much time sort of repeating things that have already been said, but that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now Cassie Warner, unless we have other...
So first I need to ask.
Yes.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak who didn't sign in?
Yes.
who has not yet spoken. That would be you.
Okay. Stephen Severn, my name, and I live in Forest Acres. I came from the lower 48 with that one guy from California. And when I got out of there, I told myself and told my wife we're going home because I'm from Anchorage. And I don't want to ever live in a congested area again. I live on 9/10 of an acre. I've got neighbors around me, we don't know each other, we don't mess with each other, you know. It's just private the way I want it to be. And when I die, I want to be buried in the front yard. You know? But I mean, if I wanted people around me, I could have moved to New York, I could have moved to Chicago, LA, Anchorage, where I was born. I wouldn't live in Anchorage if they gave me $1 million. It's just not my type of living. And the time I've been here, I get up one morning and there's a pair of sandals in my front yard, somebody's cell phone and a hat. I pick them up and I'm taking them to the police station. Well, I don't know what to do with them. I'm not going to take somebody's cell phone. And the guy comes running up. Oh, you found my stuff. Who are you? Oh, I'm a renter down there. Oh, okay. I sell vitamins. Sure. People coming in all hours of the day and night, you know. And then I had a fire chief, assistant fire chief, walking my dogs on the road, and he says, lock your doors, huh? He said, somebody's breaking in all these places. So, you know, I'm against it. If somebody is planted there in a house, that's different. You know they got stake there, you know. And one thing I did too, I was smoking fish when I first got here. People moved in, they had kids. I'm walking around, I see bear tracks everywhere. Okay, I guess I quit now, you know, I gotta think of the kids. So that's basically it, you know, I just don't, why change it now? You know, it doesn't need to be changed. A lot of other alternatives. There's that one fenced-in area out there by the highway. Put something there, you automatically have a gated community. You know? But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. So one more call. Is anyone who has not yet spoken wish to speak? Okay, so, yeah, I see Becky. Becky, you have 1 minute.
Becky from Inside the City, I have 1 minute. Oh, boy.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You have not yet spoken on this issue. You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was giving, Becky from Inside the City, I was giving everybody an opportunity to speak that, because I did speak earlier, even though it was something separate. If anybody wants to watch what all went into the decision for the P&Z to decide that the part that was to R3, that got us all thinking, that meeting was on July 3rd or 6th, and it is over 2 hours long. And listening to that meeting, I know when something is rezoned for R3, they can put up a 48-foot building. And that would block sons of whoever's in front of it, if I'm understanding that right. Just in a neighborhood, I bought into Forest Acres so that I could have a full acre, and because it's a nice quiet neighborhood, did not object to the senior apartment building coming in. That's all single units, nice, but we are getting the fire department there, or it's the police department, who's moving in, anyway. They're moving, there's getting more development and more development in there, and I'm just thinking that it's time to start controlling it. And there have been a lot of new meter boxes, so there's new buildings coming up. And we did have questions on what would change, exactly what would change from R1 to R3, is what I have questions. If somebody built, could they change it later to a B&B, or would that affect how many pets or what pets we could have, or is there what the changes are? So people are confused on the changes there. And so that was one of one of the ideas. But I'm glad to see everybody showing up now. And the rezoning that was did probably won't affect me, and it's like more toward the highway, that's more of a sound barrier if they do build big apartment buildings. But I'm more worried about big apartment buildings that are tall and they're getting more congested. And there are, I was also wanting to find out, is there any other options to build? I've heard a lot of meetings and that you've done a lot of work on putting other units on a property, whether it's detached or not, get a permit for that. Is there any way that could be done in this situation without doing rezoning? And a place that isn't rezoned is Casey's property out of town. That could be where the B&B's moved, and then expand into the apartments for residential or parents in town. I am not sure, but I just had questions, and we just see so much congestion in the area and want to keep the neighborhood nice and quiet. And let's see, I am not sure what else. I mean, like, Pacific Park has 5 apartment buildings available. So I think that housing is a problem, and this is just one, and I can understand trying to house housing, taking care of family. That's why I bought the big house that I'm in, so I could do that. It's on 1 floor, and it actually, so I could do multiple, I could be part of that if I wanted to, and, but I don't. If I was to do something, I would be traveling nurses, so that's an idea. Maybe this could, but I just don't want to open up the door to everything getting, and then more and more, it seems like there's always more trying to zone to R3, and I understand you're putting so much work into this and all of that, but I will say that I was one that had a petition. I only got like a few signatures and went around to people like friends, but I never said, even though Casey does have a B&B, I didn't say she was doing it to expand her B&B, and I did not refuse to talk to her. She came in to talk to me at work while I was slammed with people, and there were 3 customers behind her, so I could not talk to her. And I had a U-Haul disaster going on. I had 5 people running 3 U-Hauls, and other customers. No, I could not talk to her at that time. Did not refuse to. It was at the end of the day. Tuesday's my Monday anyway, so they're usually crazy. But nothing against Casey, or definitely her parents. Her dad's a friend of mine. Love to have him for a neighbor. But I just hope this can be done without rezoning.
Thank you. Okay, if no one else wishes to speak, we have.
We're making our exit, thank you.
Okay.
Can I say one more thing?
We have one more speaker.
Hi, I'm Diana Kashuba. I'm actually one of Sam's spouse. We just moved into the area, and after listening, I wasn't going to say much. I am against it. What my husband and I said, we just moved here. We just bought the house back in May, so this is all new, so we don't know any of the other things. But my biggest thing with my against this is that we've jumped a couple rezonings. I'm well with in a positive of having things rebuilt for families and moving in families and things like that. But for the zoning, for me, jumping so many levels so quickly without thinking of the options of maybe the one below it is something that we were thinking about, because one of the reasons we bought this property was because of the smaller neighborhood, the quiet outside the city. It's why we retired and moved here, and so we'd like to be here for a long time and hopefully have our grandchildren come back. For all the reasons people are talking why we went on a negative, but my biggest thing is for the committee to think about why we jumped so many zones and why we can't think of that. Just going into the 2-family and thinking what we can do for that and for the family that wants to rezone for those reasons, as long as it is for that reason. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak for 1 minute? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Randall Johnson again. I live at 2504 Birch Street. I live in the city. So I'd like to address a comment that was made. The reason that this is being asked to go to R3 and not to R2, which is what seems to be what Mr. McDonald seems to think will be if this was a duplex, is because the lady who has asked for this to be R3 already doesn't meet the requirements for R2 if she builds a third structure. This is not going to be just duplexes. This could be in the future, could be multifamily large structures. That's not why we moved into Forest Acres. My wife and I moved here for the rural setting, for the nice living, but still living within the city limits. And so I would again just like to say that this is not R2 as Mr. McDonald would seem to say. And plus, he doesn't even live in the neighborhood, so his quote of living next to duplex doesn't really hold any water in this situation.
I do live in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Would anyone else who has already spoken wish to speak for 1 minute?
Yeah, one more thing I'd like to say. You know, I see the sign at Steve's everywhere. I live there. Anyway, those signs on the road, you know, I drive by them while they're doing something, you know. And then I get told what's going on, and I go, what? Don't change it. You know, for me, transparency from our government and from the city is very important. So what I'd like to see is if something like this comes up again, or if this goes on, my mailbox is always open. You don't have to put a stamp, you just got to send somebody in there and shove a piece of paper in there. You know, and I'll know a lot quicker than I did this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
The previous speaker before this gentleman said I don't live on Spruce Street, and I most definitely do every single night. I have only owned the home for about 1.5 years, but it is my primary residence. I do travel some, and I've been gone back, but I don't know where he came up with that. I definitely do live there, and I don't have any plans on building anything on the empty lot that I have at the moment. So, thank you.
Thank you. Last chance, anyone, 1 minute addition? Would the applicant wish to have, we have up to 4 minutes?
Thank you. A couple things I would like to address. Yes, I have an ADU. Yes, I do nightly rental in my ADU. It's the same, doesn't matter if I'm zoned R3, if I'm zoned RR, if I'm zoned R1, same nightly rental requirements are across the board. Yes, I could put my aging parents in that unit, but unlike a lot of the people that have spoke here tonight, I am a single family household. I have one income. That majority of my income comes from my short-term rentals. I wish I didn't have to short-term. I wish I could rent it out in another space. But if I did that, I could not live in this community and raise my children. I grew up in Seward. I want to continue to live here, and I want to continue to raise my family here. That's why I came back after I went and left and went to college and explored. I came home because Seward is a special place. For those that have identified this as a money grab for me, I am sorry that you think so illy of me when you have not taken the time to have a conversation with me. Please call me. My information is out there. You now know where I live. Please knock on my door. Please come see me. I care about this community deeply. When it comes to the high-rise comment that was made, that is only, the 48-foot height is only allowed in that north of Hemlock and east of Spruce Street. That is the only area that you will see a 48-foot building in this community at this point in time. Guess who's living across the street from that? I am. Why am I? Why am I in support of that? Because I care about the people that want to live in Seward. I care about the single parent families. I care about those with children that are not sure if they're ready to spend $500,000 on a single family house. Yeah, I hear that people want them, that isn't the American dream. That's why I have the home that I have, because it is an American dream. I would love to be a homeowner, I'm grateful for that. But not everybody gets to jump from parents' house to college to single-family ownership. There is a middle ground there, and that comes in things like multifamily units. There are people that come here for seasonal work, they live in seasonal housing. Then maybe they want to stay for the winter, but they don't really have a job here quite yet. They haven't established their professional role in our community, and they're going to need something that's affordable in a multifamily unit. So, I also want to say, where was the neighborhood when that 48-foot height limit was going in? When this area, east of Spruce Street and north of Hemlock, was being rezoned to R3. But you all want to come out with pitchforks for the one that has grown up here, that lives here, and cares about everybody, even at their own detriment. I will live next to that high rise, and I will support every single family that chooses to live there year-round. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I will now close the public hearing. The record, which includes the public correspondence and petition, is now closed, and no further comments or records will be accepted. We have a motion and a second. The commission is tasked with providing findings of fact. Would the mover, who is Commissioner Pemberton, like to start with comments and findings of fact in support of or in opposition to the motion?
I'm in opposition to the motion because it sounds like there are a lot of people in that neighborhood that do not want that and have been there for many, many years. I have driven around town, I have looked on the realty lists, there are a lot of places available. They're going to be, it's my understanding, a lot of those houses that are being built are actually going to be people that will be moving into there and moving out of other homes that will be available for people to rent or buy. So with that, I'd say we already have enough R3 zoning going on, and I don't see why we should take an RR community and turn it into an R3. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. And the seconder is Commissioner Sullivan.
Okay. My concern on that is I appreciate that there's no spot zoning right now because Ms. Warner was having something that was her own property, but you know how Seward has been littered with spot zoning left and right, so it's good to have an entire area looked at and evaluated. I appreciate all the items as far as getting potentially multifamily housing. The only problem for me is it does open the door for if it goes from rural residential to R3, and then what potentially goes up. There doesn't seem to be anything there. It's almost like the barn doors are open and the horses are out, and you just don't know yet. I like the idea of perhaps ADUs, if need be, or even an R2. So I have a tough time supporting the R3 motion at this time.
Thank you. Other commissioners, would you like to speak?
I actually have questions for staff. Are we allowed to incorporate some of that, or is that
To a
possible?
limited extent?
I just was wondering about the two lots that are non-compliant. If this was to be deemed R1, that would bring them into compliance, right?
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, rural
They're only
residential.
non-compliant because there's not enough, you don't meet the square footage.
Correct, and so rural residential requires a 20,000 square foot minimum. Any other zoning district, residential zoning district would require a minimum of 6,000.
Okay, and the R1, whether it be R1 or R2, if that was, say it was to go that direction, they would be allowed to subdivide their property, right?
Correct, so it would be the same situation currently that in this request to R3. So if the rezone request was to single family or R2, the minimum lot size requirement would be 6,000 square feet. So if you have 12,000 square foot lot, you can subdivide your lot into 2 lots.
Yeah, and these are up to 19,000, I guess I'll go off. These are 19,000, excuse me, I'm sorry, I gotta go. Oh yeah, 20,000 square foot lots, 19,000 square foot lots, 39,000 square foot lots, so they could potentially be, if it was R1 or R2, it could potentially be subdivided like almost into three single-family home lots, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Rhonda, I do have some information, if you'd like. I went on the View KPB website, which is pretty awesome, and I looked up the plat for those two non-conforming lots, and I discovered that 2400 Diamond and 2400 Birch were created by a subdivision in 1976, which is prior to when these requirements were established in 1978. So they are legal non-conforming lots.
And I have a similar experience on the tip of Diamond, where Diamond and Cedar intersect. On that corner, if you're familiar in the neighborhood, that was once one big lot, and it got subdivided into now 4 lots. So just to give you an idea of what an R1 could do and an R2 could do for the existing lot owners, as a matter of fact. So just making you aware, you don't have to have R3 to do what you want to do potentially. Because, can I speak?
You are still speaking.
Okay. If you do an R1, R2, you could potentially maybe have 28 maximum dwelling units. You go to R3, you could potentially have 60 to 100 dwelling units in that plat. So I don't want to make this personal, or I really appreciate the sincerity of everybody here as well as the applicant, because they mean well, and this does not have to be personal, and we could see what's going on currently right now, but that's not going to be the future. And people are going to move on, people are going to sell out at some point, and making this R3 is potentially going to commercialize the area, and it could really, I mean, it's going to, when someone finds out, or a developer comes in and finds out they could put that many units on a lot, it's, why not, you know? I do have one other clarification. The 48-foot height limit, I'm sorry, sometimes this stuff just does not stick with me. I thought that we only approved that for that auto commercial area. Was that also approved in the R3 area between Laurel and Birch, or Spruce also?
Yes, everything east.
Okay, so that whole lot in that resource management area too, right? That the city owns, and the trade that we did?
Right, and
that's all 48 feet?
And the multifamily east of Spruce.
Okay, I'm sorry. So anyway, that is a fact, that area, and as the people are aware, there's R3 zoning right across east of Spruce. So, and there again, you're going to potentially have, looking at the land mass there, you're looking at 60 to 100 units potentially, if they wanted to go fit them all in like that.
Okay, any other commissioners wish to speak? Commissioner Hornseth?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for everybody for coming out. There's a lot of feedback, and I'm hearing a lot of things about single-family residences here. I did do some research too on, I pulled some data from the GeoHub Borough website and got the total acreage of R1 and RR in Seward, which is 357 acres. And that actually outnumbers the total of R3 urban residential, office residential, auto commercial, central business, and harbor commercial, which totals at 261 acres. So we have dedicated a lot, I mean, you'd say the majority of our land that's able to have people housed to single family. And so my question is, where are we going to put more people? You know, they just can't. We can't make more R1, RR. There's really no place to put it. So, like, if Seward needs to grow, and that's kind of a question for the comprehensive survey, but if you want your kids, your grandkids to move back to town, then they aren't going to be able to purchase a single-family home unless you give up your home. So, you know, we've kind of locked ourselves into this future if we want to grow. And so I just want you to think about that, of what we should do about this problem. But thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Verhey?
Thank you very much. I guess I would like to point out a couple things. One is that there is already spot zoning there. Those 3 lots that are kind of that gray color behind me are R2, and that clearly sticks out. Also in this RR area, we already have smaller subdivided plots. So there is less than an acre lots that have single-family homes on, which is probably part of the diamond traffic as well. And also that R3 is already there, so that would not make it spot zoning, and it's kind of a perfect place for that continuous building. And that when we allow people to do more with their land, doesn't mean they will or they have to. We just are giving that opportunity to, at this point, 6, 7 landowners. So I do think it would be favorable for our town at this point.
Thank you. I guess that takes it back to me. In our Title 15 code, the purpose of planning and land use regulations has a number of topics. And the first one is to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community's residents. I noticed that the existing roads are not adequate to meet the higher density and uses allowed in R3. Both Birch and Spruce are substandard roads that do not comply with code. Each is only 40 to 45 feet wide. Spruce Street is a dead-end road with an undeveloped cul-de-sac. It's platted, as you can see on the map, but it doesn't exist on the ground. The road surface is dirt and gravel with structures encroaching into the public right-of-way. There are no sidewalks, and there's traffic congestion on Diamond and Hemlock. I also looked up the city's water and sewer map, and I found it extremely confusing. It looks to me like existing utilities are not adequate to meet the higher density and uses allowed in the R3 zone. The water main ends on Spruce Street at the north end of 2400 Birch Street property. The sewer gravity mains do not serve the rezone along Birch Street. So I don't know how people have sewer and water lines. Do they crisscross with easements across private property to go here and there? I'm sorry, we can't take public. Yeah, we can't take public input at this time. But I know Forest Acres, as a former Fort Raymond Army unit, they just did what they wanted. And then they left, and we moved in, and now we deal with your neighbors going through. But anyway, I find that is, existing utilities are not adequate. The streets are not adequate. The next one is promote fire safety and public order. Again, Spruce Street has a platted cul-de-sac, but it doesn't exist. There's no safe way for fire trucks or other emergency responders to turn around. There are congested intersections along Hemlock and Diamond already. Narrow roads, no shoulders, no sidewalks. The next one I chose was provide safe aesthetic surroundings and living conditions. Gleaning comments from the letters and supplemented by what was here. Quiet and peaceful area, beauty and history, beautiful northern part of Seward, large lots. 50 years ago, all the lots were an acre or more. Trees, long-time single-family residential, long-time residents, multi-generational, year-round residents. These are all important quality of life issues. Permanent families, safe place for kids to play, friendly neighbors. Concerns about higher densities, concerns about short-term rentals and tourists in the neighborhood, overwhelming impact on surrounding properties and neighborhoods. The next one is a big one, prevent undue traffic congestion. Again, narrow roads, no shoulders, no sidewalks. Traffic on Hemlock, trying to exit Forest Acres. The intersections of Diamond, Hemlock, Spruce, and Birch are already busy with many intersecting driveways. Changing RR to R3 at this busy intersection will add to the traffic congestion. Concerns about higher density, increased traffic, higher activity, nightly rentals again, tourist and employee housing. The multifamily zone allows higher density residential uses and commercial uses. And there's a whole list of them. Someone asked about that. I don't want to read all of them. And the ones I highlighted, someone commented that, perhaps to paraphrase, what the intentions and plans are currently could change in the future. They're not binding. So if it's rezoned to R3, the ones I thought might happen, of course, a duplex is allowed outright, a hostel with a permit, rooming or boarding house is allowed outright, and there's many other uses that are allowed with the CUP.
This is R3?
Yeah, it's real interesting. You have a grocery store, childcare license center with a CUP, townhouses, condos, CUPs, grocery convenience store, CUP, housing, nursing, retirement, convalescent, CUP. It's real interesting. Hotel, motel, lodge, inn with a CUP. Parking lot, planned unit development. But anyway, those are uses that are possible if it's rezoned to R3, not just what the current landowners think they might do. So keep that in mind. The next one is conserve and stabilize the value of property. Forest Acres is Seward's oldest premier residential neighborhood, consisting primarily of single-family homes on large lots. Several people commented on that, and it was pretty much a quote. Single-family homes are the foundation of the community, and they grow the community. The rural residential feel, large lots, trees, safe and family-friendly, quiet and rural nature. Concerns about, again, short-term rentals, higher densities, more activity, more traffic. Rezone from restrictive RR to a broad R3 is a major change. Concerns about higher buildings, condos, duplexes, multiplexes, nightly rentals, tourists, employee housing, change of landscape. And then provide for orderly and stable public, residential, commercial, and industrial development. Allowing a high-density multifamily zone next to the lowest residential zone is not orderly or stable. The rural residential district, RR, is intended to provide for stable, quiet, low-density, 1 or 2 dwelling units per acre, detached single-family residential development free from other uses. Multifamily residential is intended to provide opportunities for a higher density residential setting with a mix of housing units, which are predominantly multifamily, close to the concentrations of public services, employment, and/or recreation. So those are findings based on our code. The last one was to determine the most appropriate use of land in accordance with the comprehensive plan. So there were many concerns that the character of the neighborhood would be lost. The comprehensive plan supports single-family residential, supports neighbors where you know your neighbors. And as pointed out, the application petition was signed by 3 people, and 3 of the 7 property owners in the rezone are opposed to the rezone, which does seem quite unfair. Both the current zoning map and the future land use map show these properties as rural residential. As noted by the applicant, the comprehensive plan emphasizes land use strategies that support orderly growth and balanced development that is driven by community consensus in conformance with the land use plan. So, the last one, number 11, implement the comprehensive plan for the city. The goal to promote infill developments by encouraging and promoting construction on vacant sites in areas of the city which are already established can be supported without rezoning on vacant sites. The goal to expand the opportunity for affordable, diverse year-round housing through appropriate land use regulations is not guaranteed in an R3 zone that allows multiplexes, short-term rentals, employee housing, and commercial uses that are not allowed in RR. The goal to maintain Seward's small-town, family-oriented character throughout the growth process is a policy that should protect the Forest Acres rural residential zone and neighborhood character. So given these findings, I find that this rezone is not in the best interests of the public and is not supported by our code. So I'm not sure if we need to go through each of these one by one and get consensus, or just
Go through yours?
yeah, as findings. Okay, that would be arduous. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be.
Okay, so let's go back to my script here. Is there any further discussion by the commission? All talked out? Okay.
Yeah, I just,
Any final comments from staff?
No.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Clerk, would you please call for the vote?
Voting on Resolution 25-027, Burhay.
Yes.
Sullivan.
no.
Pemberton.
No.
Hubbard.
No.
Hornseth.
Yes.
Chair Griswold.
No.
The vote for Resolution 25-027 has failed.
Which means it's RR. I want to thank everyone for your courteous attendance at this very long public hearing and for the turnout. It's been wonderful to have public input as we make these very difficult decisions. So if you want to stay for some more exciting planning and zoning stuff, you're welcome, or we could take a few minutes to allow the audience to leave and go back to your quiet neighborhood.
Could we take a, do you want to take a break?
It'd be a good time for us to take a break. Let's come back at 8:35. I'll do this just for fun. Could I get those statistics?
Yeah, that was a really cool website. I can send you.
Everyone ready? I know the mayor.
We will now come back into session. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for Resolution 2025-028, starting on page 29 of the packet. Deputy Clerk, will you please read the title into the record?
Resolution 2025-028 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council amend Seward City Code 15.10.140 definitions of animal shelter and veterinary hospital and 15.10.226 land uses allowed table for veterinary hospital.
Thank you. Does any commissioner need to declare conflict of interest on this resolution? Okay. Is there a motion to approve? And a second, please raise your hand to be acknowledged.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-028.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Tag team. Commissioner, would the staff please provide a short summary?
Yes, thank you. So many of you may be aware that there is a veterinarian hospital located in Soldotna that has been offering services in Seward at the animal shelter. And when they applied for the business license this year, was brought to our attention that veterinary hospitals are not allowed in the institutional zoning district where the animal shelter is located. So staff felt this would be a good topic for the commission to discuss, and so the commission at their July 15th work session talked about zoning districts where veterinary hospital would be appropriate. And during this work session, the commission also discussed that it would be important to update the definition for veterinary hospital, as well as add a definition for animal shelter, since there was not a definition in our current code. So if you look on page 34 of the packet, you'll see the new definition for animal shelter, as well as the updated definition for veterinary hospital, which is now being changed to veterinary services. And at the work session on July 15th, the commission discussed adding a phrase to this definition that required the facility to be certified by the state, but upon further research by the chair, it was discovered that there are no state regulations for veterinary services or hospitals or clinics. It's only the veterinarians who are regulated. So this definition has been updated to reflect that in the first sentence, that it needs to be professional Medicare to animals by licensed veterinarians, and then stipulating the type of service that will be offered and that it will be in a permanent facility. Then on page 35, you'll see what will be updated in the land uses allowed table. Veterinary hospital, now veterinary services, were allowed by conditional use permit in auto commercial industrial resource management zoning districts. The proposed amendment will change that veterinary services will be allowed outright in auto commercial industrial resource management and now institutional.
Would you like to address the animal shelter definition?
I don't have any other comments. It's pretty straightforward and what was discussed at the work session, but.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. I will now open the public hearing. Deputy Clerk, is there anyone signed in to speak?
There is no one signed in to speak.
Does anyone in the audience wish to speak about this resolution? Go ahead, count on them up.
Thank you, Ben. Again, inside the city, I wanted to speak in favor of this and thank the city of Seward for allowing and for the animal shelter to hold the low-cost spay and neuter clinics and the veterinary service. It's a much-needed thing, and to listen, and to, these codes will help not limit where people can open up a veterinary clinic. And statewide, we're really short veterinarians. Nationwide, we're really short veterinarians. I mean, like by 50%. So this is much needed, and thank you guys for bringing this forth and doing this. And we do have a local vet that doesn't handle emergencies. She does do vaccinations, and while she's vaccinating your pet, she can offer you awesome training advice. So if anybody wants her number, just call me. Thank you.
Thank you for that helpful plug. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, I will now close the public hearing. The record is now closed and no further comments or records will be accepted. Would the mover, Commissioner Sullivan, like to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I like the way this is broken out, and we've had the opportunity to clarify a lot of the points that are in here, and I think it's pretty straightforward, so I like it.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Pemberton?
Well, I'm for this because I went back, even though I wasn't here for illness. I went back and I went through what you guys did and watched and checked. So, yeah, I think we need this. There's a big need for it. It's a big gap here in Seward.
Anyone else wish to comment? Okay. Well, as usual, I have some comments. I move to amend the land uses allowed table to retain veterinary services as a conditional use in auto commercial, industrial, resource management as currently allowed, and also in institutional, so that the commission can make sure that the proposed facility is a good fit for that zone. Is there a second?
Can you read that again?
Sure. So if we look on page 35, this is where I'm moving to amend. So, but I can't discuss it further until I have a second. So I move to amend the land uses allowed table to retain veterinary services as a conditional use in auto commercial, industrial, resource management as currently allowed, and also in institutional, so that the commission can make sure the proposed facility is a good fit for that zone.
Second it.
Okay, thank you, June. So I will mention, as I have many times, that our zones are very tight, especially south of Port Avenue. We've got auto commercial right next to homes. And resource management, residential again. Institutional, there's institutional kind of scattered around. I have a large vacant institutional lot across the street from my house. Do I want an animal shelter allowed? A veterinary services facility allowed there outright, where the neighbors wouldn't have a chance to speak to it. So I think just keeping it, right now, it is auto commercial, industrial, and resource management is allowed by conditional use permit. And I think the reason was exactly what I said. The neighbors have the right to know more about this facility and provide input, provide a little more transparency to the process instead of being surprised, like, oh, guess what's going across the street from your house or right next to your house. So, and then we're adding institutional, and I think that should also be by condition. So we're expanding where these very necessary and needed services will be allowed, but I think we should just be a little more cautious and have it be by conditional use permit in each of those zones. Any discussion on that? Commissioner Hornstein.
Thank you. I think we should just allow these outright. If we are trying to attract such services, any barrier that we put in is potentially going to not attract those services. When we put stuff as a conditional use permit, that is a big question mark for an applicant. And setting up to just apply for that conditional use permit is a big lift. So I am in favor of retaining it as unamended, you might say.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Verhey?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I do think this kind of highlights our zoning situation, that you and your residents are across the street from one AC zone, and that's interesting. So maybe that's something for us to dig into deeper, because that being a bigger issue and bigger picture as opposed to what's allowed, and that we do want to attract these services, and that many, many things are allowed in an AC zone. So, yeah, I'm also in favor of leaving it.
South of Port Avenue, most of the AC zone is homes, and north is what you would more likely expect to be a lot of commercial. But the existing zoning map, it is what it is. So I am thinking mostly of the homes next to an animal services clinic, because the lots are very small and the impacts are magnified with this kind of use in the neighborhood. So that's why I wanted a little more input from the neighbors.
Yeah, kind of
And boy, we can work for the rest of our many lives on the zones, but that's what we have, and that's what makes this, to me, more problematic. If it was just north of Port Avenue, I'd be for it, because it's designed for that.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Having lived a half a block from the old shelter for 2 years, I think the neighbors should be contacted before, I think the neighbors should have input as to what goes into there. Because in the middle of the night, if you have a dog upset or something, it's gonna wake you up. So, I'm just saying, if you have a quiet neighborhood and then this moves in across the street, or even in my case, a half a block away at the place I used to live, it can be very loud. If you gotta get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, I'm just saying.
And a conditional use permit would bring out that feedback, and you could say, well, you're in a really tight neighborhood, people around you, how about some soundproofing? How about a fence around your facility, so the dogs, if they get away, are contained?
Yeah.
Right now, it's just like, you can do whatever you want. So that's why I really do hope we have the opportunity to look at each application and make sure it's a good fit for that neighborhood.
I just want to say one more thing.
Sure.
Some of these things we're looking at, yes, it might gonna be grow this or grow that, but you gotta remember, we're here because there are people here in this town. So, we gotta think about that, consideration of the people that are living here. Not the people that are gonna be moving in, but the people that are living here have to have some consideration as to what's going on in the town. So I like to have people's input.
Commissioner Hubbard?
In regards to the animal shelter, we just spent how many millions of dollars on that new animal shelter, and it took years to move it from where it was. And there was a lot of advocacy for that, and it was a big lift. And it's currently an institutional, am I correct? Yeah. It's in a good place. I don't see us having another animal shelter within city limits. I don't think that's the issue. So what we're really looking at is veterinary services, correct?
Correct.
So the provision of professional medical care to animals by licensed veterinarian, and other services to animals, care and grooming. It's not an animal shelter, and we've all taken our animals, or those of us that have animals, to veterinary places, and I just don't see them being as that big of a burden compared to an animal shelter, and so I don't really find this a cup necessary. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Any other discussion? Deputy City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Just want to make sure I have the amendment
Okay.
down, because we have to vote on the amendment first. It's by adding industrial and research management by CUP.
It's to retain veterinary services as a conditional use in the auto commercial, industrial, resource management, and add institutional.
And auto,
Yes,
sorry, that's just a lot.
right.
Retain vet services as a conditional use in auto,
Commercial,
commercial,
industrial, resource management, as currently allowed,
is currently allowed.
and also in institutional,
Also institutional,
so that the commission
so commission
can make sure
can make sure
that the proposed facility is a good fit
is a good fit.
for that zone.
Okay, so voting on the amendment to retain veterinarian services as an auto commercial industrial and as a conditional use permit use auto commercial industrial resource management by CUP as currently allowed and also institutional, so commissions can make sure proposed facility is a good fit for that use.
For that zone.
For that zone, sorry. Hornseth.
No.
Hubbard.
No.
Sullivan.
No.
Pemberton.
Yes.
Verhey.
No.
Chair Griswold.
Yes.
And that amendment has failed. So back to the main motion.
Is there any further discussion by the commission? Okay. Any final comments from staff? Okay. Deputy Clerk, please call for the vote.
Okay, voting on resolution 25-028, Hornseth,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Pemberton,
No.
Verhey,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
and Chair Griswold.
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for Resolution 2025-029, starting on page 36 of the packet. Deputy Clerk, will you please read the title into the record?
Resolution 2025-029 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council amend Seward City Code 15.10.140, definitions for dwelling, apartment, commercial building, and misuse development, and table 15.10.226, land uses allowed for dwelling, apartment, and a commercial building.
Thank you. Are there any comments by the staff?
Yes, thanks, Chair Griswold. So in the past year...
Chair
I'm
Griswold,
sorry.
I have a point of order.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're
Point of order.
practicing this.
Point of order,
I was taking a drink and I lost my space. So, excuse me for that error. Gonna check off, she has read it into the record. Does any commissioner need to declare a conflict of interest on this resolution? Check, check. Is there a motion to approve in a second? Please raise your hand to be acknowledged.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-029.
Would anyone else like to make a second?
I will second that.
Thank you. All right, are we on track, Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes,
Thank you. Would the staff please give a short summary?
Thank you. So over the past year, during the Commission's discussions regarding housing and parking, a recurring concern has been brought up about the lack of clarity in Seward City Code regarding regulations for mixed-use buildings, specifically apartments in commercial buildings, and the lack of a definition for mixed-use development. I do want to point out that our code does allow mixed-use developments, although it's not defined. Mixed-use development is simply multiple uses occurring on one lot, and so within a zoning district, say central business, if certain uses are allowed outright, those multiple uses can occur on that same lot. So it is allowed, it has not been defined in our code. And then we do have dwelling, apartment in a commercial building that is defined in our code, so specifically calling out that mixed-use building type that combines apartments with a commercial use. And that's also within our land uses allowed table. And then the other concern was that the parking requirements for these types of mixed-use buildings was not well explained within our code. The parking code does outline regulations for group use of lots, but there was some lack of clarity there, I would agree, especially for the type of mixed-use developments that require conditional use permit. And so the commission did discuss this topic at their July 15th meeting, and if you look on page 41, you'll see what was discussed and came out of that work session. So the definition for apartment in a commercial building was updated to be more specific and say apartment within a mixed-use building. So this would be an apartment located within a building designed to accommodate a mix of residential and non-residential uses. And this is just clarifying that it could be a mix of apartment and institutional uses, or it doesn't necessarily have to be commercial, so just non-residential. And then the definition for mixed-use development is being proposed to be added to our code, and this would be a development that combines two or more land uses permitted in the zoning district, such as residential, commercial, and/or public uses in a single building or on a single site. Now, you'll notice that mixed-use development, this definition, this term, is not being added to our land uses allowed table for the reason that I stated earlier, that it's allowed already in any zoning district. So a development that combines two or more land uses is already permitted in that zoning district. So a mixed-use development, it's not a specific type here. It would be combining a variety of uses that are already allowed outright. Then if you turn to page 42, you'll see how we are updating the land uses allowed table, and it's for the use of a dwelling apartment in a mixed-use building. It used to be a commercial building, but updating that term. So the dwelling apartment in a mixed-use building, limited to one unit. There's no changes to where that is allowed. It's allowed outright in OR, AC, HC, CB, and industrial, and by conditional use permit in resource management. Then dwelling apartment in a mixed-use building, two or more units, is currently allowed outright in OR and AC, and by conditional use permit in harbor commercial and central business. And that's the proposed amendment that the commission discussed, is to change that conditional use permit to outright. And the primary reasons for that during the discussion was due to those parking requirements, which become very vague and ambiguous due to the conditional use permit now allowing the commission to set any standard of parking requirement that they feel would be required there versus just relying on what was recommended in, or what's required in code. So those are the changes, the recommended changes for mixed-use development and dwelling apartment in a mixed-use building.
Thank you very much. I will now open the public hearing. Deputy Clerk, is there anyone signed in to speak?
There is no one signed in.
Does anyone in the audience wish to speak? Please come up. You know the drill?
My name is Kelly Hatfield. I live outside of city limits, but I am looking to develop some property that I own inside of city limits. So I just wanted to thank you guys for all of your hard work on coming up with these. This solves a lot of the problems that I was having in trying to figure out what I could build on my property. Having a definition makes it easier to have a commercial space on the lower floor and housing apartments on the upper floors. And allowing that outright also gives me the options to manage the parking as I need in Central Business District, because I am able to outright say put a restaurant on my lower floor, an arcade on my second floor, and an apartment on my third floor, and I don't have to have any parking for that. It only makes sense that if I want to make a restaurant on my first floor and 4 apartments above, that I shouldn't have to do parking for that. I would argue that the arcade and the B&B would probably bring more traffic to that spot than a couple apartments and a restaurant. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I like it how it stands, and I appreciate all your hard work. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, close the public hearing. Turn the page. Would the mover like to comment, and then the seconder?
Well, yes, I think I'd like to just briefly talk about, we obviously beat this to death before, so I think it's we've done a lot of work on this, but also I think it's good that it gives people who want to develop things or create opportunities for people to live in housing above say like we have downtown, above a business or something like this, an opportunity to have a place to be. I like the fact that the parking is not so locked in as it used to be, because people come and go all the time. You know, I think it's an opportunity for things to move continuously through, and I think this will offer people who want to develop more things here that's going to support the community with a lot more options.
Thank you. And Commissioner Hornstead?
Yes, I think this is a great step forward. I do think this incentivizes building housing and encouraging housing versus being left up to whatever the wishes of the current commission are, which can change as the commission changes. So this levels the playing field and actually encourages housing. So I think it's a good win-win.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment? No? I'm going to stick my neck out. I move to amend the land uses allowed table to retain 2 or more apartments in a mixed-use building as a conditional use in harbor commercial, so that the commission can make sure that the impacts are compatible with the surrounding area and zone where parking is not required. Is there a second?
I'll second for a discussion because I'm trying to track where you're going with that.
Okay, thank you. Harbor commercial is intended as an area for water-dependent or water-related uses which derive major economic or social benefit from a harbor location. Harbor commercial has 100% lot coverage and no parking requirements. Housing is not a principal use, and long-term housing is not assured. More profitable short-term rentals and unhosted lodging are allowed in the harbor commercial zone. Impacts from housing and short-term rentals should not negatively impact desired harbor-related uses that have fewer options. 1 apartment in a mixed-use development is a relatively minimal additional impact to the principally commercial zones and is allowed outright in HC. 2 or more units, up to 5, can have a much greater impact to the surrounding area and should be required to be reviewed by a conditional use permit to ensure compatibility with the surrounding area.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around where you're going with that still, but I guess you're looking at the parking in the harbor commercial area for people putting those things. But I think a lot of people who move into the harbor commercial area, if there's some sort of, or it's an apartment or something along those lines, they're moving in there for a very specific purpose. They may have boats, they may have this, that, and the other thing already in the harbor. So are you worried about that there's going to be 5 different, you know, say it's a 5-bedroom something, you're worried about 5 cars being there? I'm trying to, because you're speculating to me, because if you're going to move into something like this and you're going to be down in the harbor or something like, all these people don't always have cars because they walk to everything all the time. So, I don't know, I hate to pigeonhole things so much, so it just, I have a hard time with that.
Well, nobody can predict how people are going to arrive to their apartments, but this code allows I have no problem with a dwelling apartment in a mixed-use building limited to 1 unit. That's allowed outright, except for resource management. So that to me is a limited impact, and you're allowing housing above a commercial use. Keep in mind what a small zone the Harbor Commercial District is. And if you allow dwelling apartment in a mixed-use building, which is 2 or more units, suddenly you're looking at 2 to 5 units in a very small commercial district, harbor commercial, that is, by code, supposed to be harbor-related uses. The harbor's there, boats are there, and I have seen this over the years being eroded to where harbor-related uses don't even have a place to be, and so now they're moved out. But it just occurred to me that in the harbor commercial zone, that is a big impact. And these might not be housing very lucrative to have short-term rentals. So there could be 5 short-term rentals, non-hosted, because this zone allows that. And I think we need to consider those impacts. It could be 5 short-term rentals above, let's pick a business down there. And it could be a big impact where the parking is already a big concern. So that's why I thought we would like to know, well, how many units did you plan to have above your retail store on the first floor?
Okay, I have a comment.
Sure.
Yeah, don't we have an example of that with saltwater safaris right now? Don't they have like several units? Isn't it considered a multi-use dwelling? Right.
I think that one's been
That could be-
permitted as a hotel.
Oh, it's permanent as a hotel? Yep. Okay, but it does do other activities down below, I mean, I would think.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with all of what they do.
And there's no parking requirements.
With the CUP, they were required to provide parking off-site, but.
They have parking across the street.
Okay. And I don't know, I just, there's certain weekends, of course, the parking situation gets challenged, which I think could be managed better to help remedy that, but I just do not see, I think this is a good attempt to kind of see how not having parking minimums could work, if that's your concern. And so I would like to just see this go as it is noted myself. And I don't see the concern. I think there's enough parking down there. Is that your concern?
I'm concerned with pushing out harbor-related uses as well as increasing the concentration of non-harbor-related uses. And parking. Where are they going to park?
I don't know. I think we just have to let the market decide that. What's going on? And manage our parking. That's kind of my thought. We could manage our parking better to make it work.
I think that could push some of the harbor-related businesses out of that area. And then pretty soon there's non-harbor and it's all buildings with apartments on top. So that's just my take on it.
Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Hornsett.
I think we should let the market decide what the harbor is best for. Like, harbor-related businesses will be competitive in the harbor. Also, I wanted to point out, again, on the GeoHub, kpb.us website, the harbor commercial is 90 acres. And I don't know I think that's, if I recall correctly, about 40 acres of parking. So there's a lot of land there that could be used for things. It's just a matter of pricing it correctly. And if there are parking issues down there right now, then it's a matter of pricing it correctly. Yeah. So I'm in favor of the ordinance as unamended.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
As we talked about, the tidelands were included in industrial.
Yes.
Is the harbor basin included in this acreage?
That's a good question.
Because that surprised me when I was researching. It's like, how can they zone the harbor basin? But
Afraid I can't tell you that right now.
okay. There's a possibility.
It wasn't this website.
Just hit that.
No, it's this guy. If you want to give me a minute.
Sure.
Comment in a moment?
Yes, while we're getting info.
I suspect it might, because when you look at the zoning map, that is the whole area, but also that most of that is owned by the city. So that's kind of another, if the city chooses to lease the land for said purpose, we have that other steps involved.
And the railroad.
And the railroad, yeah, of course.
Yes,
There's very few other private owners.
So we have a clarification on the 40 acres does include
That's
the boat
90,
basin.
but yes, that does include the
So
boat basin.
we don't know how big that is right now.
Yes.
It's a pretty narrow strip right along the harbor, very small. Well, thank you for that information. So, any other discussion? Okay. Deputy Clerk, would you please call for the vote on the amendment?
I'm going to call for the vote, but I'm going to ask you to read it just because of so much detail. So voting on the amended resolution 25-029 as...
Okay, let me find it. I move to amend the land uses allowed table to retain
2 or more apartments.
Yeah, 2 or more apartments in a mixed-use building as a conditional use.
For Harbor Commercial.
In Harbor Commercial.
Commercial, okay.
So that the commission can make sure the impacts are compatible with the surrounding area and zone.
Voting on that. Pemberton?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Hubbard?
No.
Hornseth?
No.
Burhay?
No.
And Chair Griswold.
Yes.
That amendment has failed.
We will now go back to the main motion. Is there any further discussion by the commission? Okay. Then, are there any final comments from the staff?
No.
Okay.
I have, can I comment yet, or did you close that?
We can back up a little bit.
Okay. I have a comment. Once again, I see where we're looking for we together, and there's a couple that have, there's about 3 that have a lot of years here, and then there's 3 that don't, are making decisions for a whole community of people that live here and have lived here sometimes a long time, and maybe want things different. Yes, they're not here because they're pretty busy. It's a busy time of the year. But I just want to take that into consideration because I try to talk to people about what we have going on. I don't know if anybody else does, just saying. What I want may not be what 90% of the community wants.
It's a risk we take.
Yeah, that's what 90% of the community, but just saying.
Deputy Clerk, would you please call for the vote?
Voting on resolution 25-029, Burhay?
Yes.
Hornseth?
Yes.
Pemberton?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Chair Griswold.
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Next on the agenda is our final public hearing, Resolution 2025-030, starting on page 44 of the packet. Deputy Clerk, would you please read the title into the record?
Resolution 2025-030 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council amend Seward City Code 15.20 signs.
Thank you. Does any commissioner need to declare a conflict of interest on this resolution? Thank you. Is there a motion to approve and a second? Please raise your hand to be acknowledged. Commissioner Hornseth?
I'll make a motion to approve 2025-030.
Thank you. And a second? Commissioner Verhey? Did you say something?
No, sorry.
Oh, you didn't want a second?
No, I'll second. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, you were so quiet. Didn't quite hear it. Would the staff please provide a short summary?
Thank you. I will try to make it short. So this amendment to the city code for signs has been hanging in the balance for quite some time. If you look at the dates in the agenda statement, and probably reflects some of the issues that we are constantly seeing in our code, that once we kind of dive into it, looking at a specific thing, we find all the other things that are wrong. But this conversation was initiated back in 2023 due to complaints that we had received regarding temporary signs, specifically feather signs, as well as some comments from the mayor regarding some ambiguous and conflicting regulations pertaining to awnings. So that was the initial reason why we delved into our sign code. And then as we worked further, it became also apparent that we needed to update some portions of our sign code to bring into compliance with the U.S. Supreme Court ruling in the Reed versus Town of Gilbert case, which if you're not familiar with that, the Town of Gilbert basically declined a citizen the ability to post a sign on the property due to what was written on the sign. And so the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that as being unconstitutional, that you cannot regulate a sign based on the content of the sign, but that you can only regulate it based on the size or the type or the location. And so these were the primary reasons that we're looking at our sign code to address temporary signage, specifically language regarding feather signs, then making sure that our sign code is clear with the references to awning signs, as well as making sure that it is compliant with the Reed versus Town of Gilbert ruling, that we're regulating signs based on size, location, and type, and not content. So I'll briefly run you through some of these updates. We're updating and adding a few definitions. So starting on page 49, we're adding the definition for awning, updating the definition for banner, deleting some signs that construction sign would be one that we would be regulating versus with content, and so that one was taken out for not being in compliance with the Reed versus Town of Gilbert. Adding definitions for feather sign, flag, inflatable sign. And I also want to point out some of these definitions that are being taken out when our city attorney reviewed it. Some of the definitions we have in our code are not referenced later on and not regulated, and so he pointed out that we don't need to have definitions that are not regulated. If we don't regulate it in our code, then we should not have it in the definitions, since that's why some of these definitions are also taken out. We've added a definition for pennant, and then of course political sign, real estate sign would be ones that we would regulate by content, which is not constitutional. Updating the definition for snipe sign and the definition for temporary sign. Then there are a few housekeeping edits you'll see on page 52 and 53, just being consistent with referencing administrative official throughout the code. And you'll see this update on page 54 as well, that using the term administrative official just for consistency. The next major changes are on page 56 for signs allowed without permits. And the primary changes will be under temporary signs, so at the end of page 56. So clarifying that temporary signs, number 2, may include banners and portable signs such as sandwich boards and weighted signs. And then decreasing the size of temporary signs in residential areas and commercial areas. Updating the language for when they can be displayed. And then number 6, and deleting the code regulations for political signs, since that would be regulating content, or regulating the sign based on content. And then adding number 6 and 7 to specify that feather signs may be allowed by mobile vendors during specific scheduled community events as determined and approved by the administrative official. And if you remember, our discussion was around the Mermaid Festival and 4th of July events. And then temporary signs posted on city property require approval by the city manager. And city manager was selected there because there are multiple departments that oversee city land where temporary signs are posted. There's the boardwalk area, which is regulated by Parks and Rec. The harbor occasionally has temporary signs posted there. And so the city manager is a broader term that then the city manager can delegate who can grant that approval, the Parks and Rec director or harbor master. And then some minor changes to prohibited signs, updating kind of things we've added to temporary signage with weighted signs and then feather signs. and inflatable signs. And then the last couple pages there are basically housekeeping edits and adjusting the language for awnings that the mayor had pointed out needed to be updated.
Good job. Thank you. Any quick questions for admin, or should we proceed with the?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of stuff here, and then you guys did I think this is one of my, like a second meeting, I got onto signs, and that was a tough one. There's a lot to think about and measure, and so what is the deal with political signs? Because I understand they're only supposed to be up for a certain period of time, right? And then you have to take them down, or what's going to be our code for that?
Right, so political signs would now be regulated as a temporary sign, which they were before, but we had more specific regulations for political signs. But now, political signs will fall under number 4. So temporary signs referencing a date or event shall be displayed no earlier than 30 days prior to the event.
Which page are you on? I'm sorry, Courtney.
Page 57.
Thank you. Okay.
And then the size of the political signs would be regulated by number 3. So in residential areas, any temporary sign, but including political signs, could not exceed 6 square feet, and then 24 square feet in commercial or industrial districts.
So, do you see a lot of signs? I mean, I haven't read through this specifically or taken this out to move around, but have you, to compare the code, but do you see a lot of signs that are out of compliance? Or do you think there's a lot of...
No, I mean, the major concern is during the summer when we have temporary, the seasonal businesses. That has been the major difficulty. And we've actually this summer not seen very many compliance issues at all, and we tried to proactively in our office, as we got business licenses, to reach out and tell them what the regulations were. And so I think that was one of the main issues, was that people just weren't informed on the code. But yeah, the seasonal time frame tends to be the time where we see the most compliance issues.
Okay, and one more thing. You said electric signs and animated signs and illuminated signs. What's the difference? Where are we at? I see electrical sign and then an animated sign. Isn't that two of the same? Or what's the difference? It's on page 49 and 50.
Yeah, and I believe that's consolidating those into the definition of flashing sign.
Okay. What's the marquee sign again? Marquee sign, what is that?
Like on the theater, Liberty Theater used to have the movie tonight.
Okay.
On the marquee.
Got it. Thank you.
I had a quick question, I hope, on page 57, temporary signs, number 4. Would it be helpful for enforcement if the date were required to be placed in a visible place on the temporary sign, so that you would know when it went up and when it should be taken down?
I think if it came to that point where we needed to enforce it, it would be helpful. I think the concern that we would have is that if we required the date to be posted, then would we be required to enforce that they put the date on it, versus take the actual concern being that we want it taken down.
At some point.
Right.
Right.
Anyway, so balancing that out, yeah.
Right. Maybe when we get our enforcement officer, they can do that. Okay. Any other discussion? Yes?
So, I see a container down there and it has a big Mayflower sign on it. Or it's the logo of the van, I don't know. Is that considered a sign, or is that? I don't know what to think about that.
Right, so if vehicle or other similar thing like a container is being used actively for the business, then it's in our code as a sign allowed without a permit, I believe.
Or a boat.
Yeah,
Or something.
but if it's stationary, so, sorry, it's on page 56, letter M. But yeah, if this container's been in a stationary location for a long time, and then it would be considered a sign and would need to be permitted.
Even though it's not a business, the Mayflower is not a business,
Yeah.
it just happens to be on the side of a storage container.
Yeah, so then that gets into
Doesn't
gray area
comply.
that wouldn't,
Doesn't
yeah.
mean anything. It's benign. Or you have to let it go. It's in a business lot, but it's not really advertising the business. It just happens to be.
Happens to be a storage unit with
Yeah,
a
with
sign on it.
Okay. Yeah, it probably doesn't even apply to
Right.
anything then.
Right.
Okay.
Wall art.
Well, yeah, mural.
We look at it. Okay, I will now open the public hearing. Deputy Clerk, is there anyone signed in to speak?
There is no one signed in.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this exciting issue? Okay, I will now close the public hearing. The record is now closed and no further comments or records will be accepted. Would Commissioner Hornseth like to comment?
Yeah, this is the culmination of a lot of work. I know we've talked about signs a lot, more than I ever thought I would. And yeah, this does now bring us into compliance with Reed v. Town of Gilbert, and I believe you said this language has been run by the attorney already, administration said, so I know it doesn't necessarily include every little bit. Sign code is horrendously complicated, but I think this is a good little bite that we can digest and solves a lot of the original reasons we were looking at sign code in the first place. So yeah, I think this is great, and I'm all for it.
Thank you. And Commissioner Verhey?
Yeah, I have to agree, we did a lot of work on this, and I think it looks really good. Good to see it in its final stages.
Very good. Anyone else?
I think, just all I can say is, I think I was chair when we were doing this before, so it's a long time. And on top of that, though, I think what it is, the code is great. You set up things, you try to improve it all the time, and sometimes code's a living document. Things come along and you have to write code for it, and when you come across it, so you can't anticipate everything. So I think what here is a good summary and a good product, with a lot of work people put in it.
Anyone else? Okay, good. Okay. Then we move on to Deputy Clerk. Would you please call for the vote on the main motion?
Yes. Voting on Resolution 25-030. Pemberton?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Marhay?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Hornseth?
Yes.
And Chair Griswold.
Yes.
This resolution, 2025-030, has been approved.
Thank you. There is no unfinished business, but under other new business is a review of the absence notification requirements for meetings. Staff, do you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Griswold. If you remember, the Commission recently held a discussion about the need for a code enforcement officer, and after that meeting, we drafted a memorandum of support that was put in a city council packet, and it was in one of their most recent packets. And so, but shortly after that, the city clerk sent me a note saying if we're gonna, as an office and the commission, talk about code enforcement, it might be good to make sure that we're following the code. And we have not been when it comes to absences. So we, since I've started, and I'm assuming even before I've started, a commissioner, if they couldn't make a meeting, would let our office know, we would let the clerk know, the clerk would make a excused or unexcused ruling. Sometimes it would happen the day before, and then make that notation at the meeting. And fun fact, none of that is in accordance with code. And so if you look at just the last page of the document of the packet, The couple things I want to point out, and then I do want to get a discussion for some input. In order for an absence to be excused, a commissioner member shall notify the city clerk and administration. So there's like a two-pronged step there in terms of letting us know if you are unable to make a meeting, and it needs to be given at least 48 hours prior to the commission meeting, and then the city clerk will inform the presiding officer of the request, and it's the presiding officer that will actually make the ruling for excused or unexcused. And so those three components are the ones that we've really not been abiding by. And so moving forward, it would be nice to kind of get back to that. But in addition, and I did speak with Chris today, because this is in Title II, so really, like, you don't have purview over making recommendations, but I wanted to get his thoughts because it does pertain to the commission, and he was open to receiving feedback on if the commission has any recommended changes to this code, because, and I think I can speak for him, we both agreed that it seems a little excessive for you as commissioners to have to let me and him know that you will not be in attendance, and so I think he was fine with his name or the clerk's office being removed from that, so you just have a one-stop shop to let know. We even talked about the emergency situations that could be brought in, so it's like an unforeseen circumstance, which I think is in your document, Chair Griswold. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure the commission was aware of the current code, because we would like to, like, moving forward, start abiding by the code, but also have a discussion with the commission to see if you have any recommended changes. And Chair Griswold, you have a laydown that has some recommendations to begin with, so I'll let you take it away from there.
Thank you. Well, I took a very close look at this. And so, as Daniel said, it's onerous to contact all these people, and then finally the chair is the one that says yes or no. So I wanted to change just about everything about this. So in order for an absence to be excused, the commissioner shall notify the community director or the community development staff as soon as possible. And based on some recent feedback, I would actually like to add or the chair, not and, but or. And that's really helpful if it happens during the weekend and you're closed, or Labor Day, the holiday. So I would like to give the chair that responsibility to receive someone's request to be excused. And then B, except in unforeseen circumstances instead of an emergency, which could be who knows what, notice must be given at least 2 business days prior to the day of a commission meeting. So I calculated, well, how much time is 48 hours for a meeting on a Tuesday? It's on the weekend. So that's not very handy. So if it's 2 business days, that would be Friday. Tell me or community development staff by the end of the workday on Friday if you plan to be absent. And, sooner is better, but at least 2 business days. C, upon receiving notice, the community development staff will inform the city clerk and the presiding officer of the notification. So it's your responsibility to share that.
Who's the presiding officer?
That would be the chair. But I think it's written that way just to cover it. So the vice chair would be the presiding officer. I don't know. I'm good either way. I actually thought chair would be more understandable. So I'd be up for just changing presiding officer to chair. If a commissioner does not notify the community development staff of a pending absence, the absence will be considered unexcused. And this just makes it so that the chair doesn't have to say, what is it, which way? It's just real clear. Either you do or you don't. If you don't, it's unexcused. When calling the roll call for the meeting, the city clerk shall indicate whether a commissioner's absence is excused or unexcused, and the city clerk will make an appropriate notation in the minutes. So by this point, the city clerk has already been informed. He doesn't have to wonder, or she doesn't have to wonder about it. It happened at that very first step. Second step. Third step, where the community development staff informs the city clerk and the chair. So before the meeting, in other words. The next is, if a commissioner shows disregard for the position and hinders the function of the commission, the chair will advise the community development staff to inform council. Council may then decide whether to hold a public hearing to discuss the removal of the member from the commission. And that's in section 2.11, removal from office. So this goes along with, this is our meeting, and the chair is in charge of the meeting, but I don't want the chair to have to decide if your excuse is good enough. I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to know your personal business. I just want to know, are you coming or not? And then I'll tell you guys, and you'll tell the clerk, and then when you come to the meeting, you'll know. So it just seemed real intrusive, the way this is written, and it gave the chair, put the chair in an uncomfortable position to decide if your excuse is valid enough, if your emergency is valid enough. I just think it should be, I can come, I can't come. Because we know the intent, if you sign up for this job, you intend to be here. And if you can't, circumstances happen, just let us know. So I just think it makes it more neutral, takes a load off the chair, makes the communication easier between the people that need to know. And at the end, it gives some power back to the chair, who's in charge of this commission, to decide if that's an impediment. And then say, council, what do you think? And bat it up to them, because they're, ultimately in charge. So I typed it out without all the changes so you could actually read it, because when you start crossing off and bolding and italicizing, it just becomes an unreadable mess. So based on the input from Commissioner Hubbard, we would like to change presiding officer to chair throughout this, because that's what we commonly call the person in this seat, and add the chair to the first one as soon as possible. So that's a quick one, and I know you haven't had much time to review this, and we've had a lot on our plate, but if you feel comfortable sharing this with the clerk and advising him that makes more sense than what we have now, that would be great.
You mean, you're still asking for input, but give it to the clerk?
Yeah, this is the point where we review what we have now, or what I have presented, and see what makes the most sense.
This clerk, deputy clerk, or Chris?
Chris.
I'm
Clerk's
taking
office.
this on making the changes, I mean.
Yeah,
I was
okay,
gonna
so
see
we can
these.
discuss
Because
this.
for clarification, since this is not in Title 15, this would not come back up
Correct.
for a vote with the commission.
Right.
Well,
So we're just getting some input.
It would be input, and
Yeah.
then the clerk's office would decide if they want to modify this, and they would bring that to city council.
Okay, so clarification, as long as they say they're not going to make it a meeting, by default, that's excused.
Correct.
That's the first
As
thing.
long as they say.
And the second thing is on, I guess it's F now, the number of meetings. Before it said if you miss 8 meetings in an appointment year, did that also include the work sessions, or was it just the official meetings?
So from my understanding,
all
the
meetings.
the clerk interprets this as just meetings. Regular
Just
meetings,
regular
yeah, not work sessions.
So they can miss 8 months and still be serving. I just don't think that that's really serving the commission and the public. That's not
That's why I
right.
struck it.
So,
That's out. It's gone.
so, well, are we gonna put any limit there? I mean, it seems
Well-
to me if they're gonna miss 4 months, that's just, maybe they shouldn't be on.
So that would be up to the discretion of the chair, and of course, the chair receives input from the commission. So if the commissioner shows disregard for the position and hinders the function of the commission, then we
Yeah,
can
I
make
don't,
that next step.
I think maybe they wanna be, but if they just physically can't because there's jobs or whatever, but I don't want to accuse them of being disregarding or disrespectful, but it's just the fact of the matter. If you're missing 4 meetings, up to four, that's 4 months worth. It's just, I don't know, a third of the year. It just seems a little, or even a half a year. I mean, you could make it that, but it just.
So what I foresee this bringing up.
Just a minute.
Go ahead.
And then I was also wondering, is there an option if, they want to get in, can we ever have one option where we can chime in electronically? Like if we're a distance away and have that option, just once maybe as an option.
That kind of rings a bell that did we try that once? During COVID, maybe?
The time I've been on the board, it was only allowed during our emergency situation that was COVID.
Right.
Because otherwise, we don't have necessarily our technology set up to, someone to monitor the meeting online and do the hybrid.
Right.
So,
And I know
it's
the
not an
borough
option.
did it, maybe still does, and council did
And
it.
they do their.
And the connections were like, we can't hear you, and they're missing all the discussion, and it just seemed like, because of our technological limitations, it just seemed like they were making decisions based on fragments. And it was just so much better to have you here.
Sure, yeah, physically, I get that. I just, if someone's on a trip, it
I
just
know.
can't happen.
I
Don't
know.
use it as an excuse to not be there physically, but if you really want to attend, but you just can't.
Right.
And I think honestly what the disregard was, you talk about disregard of the position. Vanessa and Brendan, I think were both on the board when I was the chair. We had people that just didn't bother to show up. They'd call and say, I got something else to do. And so community development has completely, put together all the meetings, put all the packets together. We didn't have a quorum. That happened, I think, 3 or 4 times in 1 year, and that was horrible. And I think that's what prompted a lot of this, of that having the absences. But I do believe it wasn't just meetings; it was meetings and work sessions. For the, if you do consecutive work sessions and meetings, you're gone, and it culminates in a certain amount. I forget exactly what it was. Then you were, recommended to be off the commission.
Go ahead.
I like your laydown that you put here. I think it covers things thoroughly, and as adults, it will be here or we won't.
It totally simplifies it a lot more.
I think that's a good recommendation.
So consensus, we send it on? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that gets to it, hinders the function of the commission, and I'm glad that hasn't really happened with the commission since I've been here, is because it's a lot of work that goes into this, and so I even had Jamie kind of look into how many times has this commission had a full attendance in the last 4 years? And it's less than 10%. And so, and I'm okay with that, right? It's like you have, like Nathaniel, I would not say at all he would disregard this position. He's very committed to this position, but he's missed most of the summer meetings because of his job. And so as long as we know and we can plan and know that there's a quorum, like that doesn't hinder the function of the commission, because that's the purpose of a quorum, is you have the ability for people to miss. We just like a heads up so that we know that we can have a meeting.
Well, yeah, and it's all that work that you guys wind up doing, and if you don't have the meeting, then they have to change the letterhead, they have to change all
And everyone
the
that shows up
dates.
tonight has to leave and come back to the time,
And it just,
so.
the whole goes downhill.
Okay. It's getting late, we better move on.
Right, okay. Thank you for bringing
And I
that forward.
interrupted you, did you have something to say?
I was just gonna say, in case you guys were wondering about me, it was a health issue that came up when I went to an appointment, and because I don't have an immunity, it's compromised. When something like that comes up, so I'm just gonna call you every Friday, because I don't know. I'll just call every Friday and say, hey, I might not be here. Because if they tell me I have to go to the hospital, hey, my life's more important than sitting in this chair. That's the way it is, And then if they have to deal with something like they did in a long-term basis, which, let me tell you, sucked.
Well, we do appreciate the call, because we were starting to get worried.
Yeah.
It was just like.
So, yeah.
We were gonna do a welfare check.
I'll just call every Friday in that way. Because I don't know when that's gonna come up, or if it's gonna come up. It did.
And you can call as soon as you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay, next is a discussion on the work session topic for September 16th.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Griswold. So for this, we have a twofold idea for this work session. One, we have compiled the information from the parking work sessions, and I think we have an ordinance draft that is potentially ready for a vote, but we do want to have eyes on it once more by the commission for any final recommendations, and so we'll have you review that. And then one of the priorities for the commission is to review and update the municipal lands inventory and management plan for 2025. Preferably conduct 2 reviews, one in the spring and one in the fall before final approval. And so we did a review, if you remember, I think one of the first work sessions this year, and that was kind of related to housing, like what areas of city-owned properties could potentially be helpful in the housing issues that we're having. And then for this one, I think it's been about 2-ish years, it's shortly before I started, when the last big overhaul has happened with the municipal lands plan. And so we've kind of looking into it roughly every 5 to 7 years, the big overhaul is done, and we're not looking to do that until after the comprehensive plan is done, just we don't have the bandwidth for that. But the commission has done a lot of good work since that overhaul, and so it would be good to, like we want to do with the comprehensive plan, treat this like a living document. And so we would do a lot of back-end updating, like all the resolutions and changes that have happened, and present those to the commission for review.
Would you entertain just a few revisions, updates in the plan?
Potentially.
There might be some
A few at a time.
that are more, more critical now with changes that have been made. So thank you for considering entertaining that. And could we have the parking come first?
Yes.
And then the plan?
Yes.
Okay. Does that sound good? Ready? We're
Parking and land
ready to
use?
tackle that?
Parking and land use plan?
Okay. And
can I just
sure.
maybe that when you talk land use plan, it's kind of new to me. Are we talking like kind of similar to what we were tackling tonight? Is that and looking at all the different zones and uses, or what are we doing?
So
exactly?
if you go to our website.
Sorry.
No, there's a good link of city plans on our website, and one of them is called the City Seward Municipal Lands Inventory and Management Plan, and what it is, it just documents every single city-owned property in town.
City-owned property, okay, got it.
It just identifies its current use, what its recommended use is, and so that's some of the things that the commission has been working on is, like when I started, I reviewed that document, looked at a lot of the recommended uses that had just gone through, and so the first thing that I kind of saw start to finish was the Mount Marathon Jeep Trailhead.
Oh.
Right, changing that, because that was a recommended use, or recommendation for that city-owned residential property.
Got all that resource management.
Rezoned to,
that's not city.
well, just that individual
Right.
Jeep was a residential lot that we rezoned to park.
Okay.
And so a lot of those changes have been happening over the last couple of years that we would just would like to get updated in the document.
Quabbie Park,
Quabbie Park, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Lowell Canyon Court.
Mhm.
Yeah, they all come from this plan.
Okay, I'm with you now.
It's a great document. You
Okay.
can read it online.
Okay. I'm still learning, thank you.
Oh, yeah, lots to read. Here's a reminder of the upcoming P&Z meetings. The work session will be on Tuesday, September 16th at 6 p.m. here. The next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, October 14th at 7 p.m. here. Next on the agenda is final public comments. There's no sign-in. Come on up, you have 5 minutes, and thank you for listening to us forever.
I'm sorry to just outside city limits, as you know. I'm just sitting here to say thank you for you guys. This is like, Mom, it's a ruthless, thankless job. You guys do it all on your volunteer time. I know your decisions are never easy, but I thank you for listening to our concerns. One thing I do want to know is with this Hilltop subdivision, homes being built, there's a lot of people who are renting that are moving into those homes that are being built. So I don't know what that's going to create for the rental market in Seward. The other thing is I know that there's a couple duplexes that are about to go online for rental. People are looking for those. As far as anything else happening, I don't know what's going up, but it's going up and it's going up. So If you have some questions for us, just let us know. But again, thanks for being here. And I enjoyed my evening out away from my kids. Hanging out with my neighbor Ann Wright. So, and hopefully, my neighbor Steve doesn't bury himself in his front yard, but if he does, I guess I hope we're invited to the funeral.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Been awesome to sit through this long meeting. It's I think it's our record longest meeting.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Wasn't you? We want public input.
This is what we do. Next on the agenda is administration and commission comments. Staff, do you have any comments?
Just real quick, long night, I just want to thank, this is the biggest turnout we've had since I've started in this position, so thanks to the public for coming out and for your time here. We're less than 40 minutes away from our code, you guys have to know we have a code deadline, we have to be done by 10:30, we have to adjourn by that. This is the closest we've gotten to it in a while, or ever since I've started, so appreciate your time.
Thank you. And Jamie, you have any comments?
No.
Okay. Deputy Clerk?
Other than I apologize for the minutes issue earlier. I gotta get back into the groove of doing this. I've been gone the past 2 meetings, so other than that,
it's fine.
Have a great evening.
No worries. Commissioners? Anyone have comments?
I'm just really happy that the public came, because there's a lot of things that I will read this and I'll say, well, I make, my ideas of what I think it is, and then people start bringing up other things that I possibly hadn't considered. So the huge input by them makes the decision-making process even more important, that I get their input, because I have my own little sphere of understanding from the commissioner's side, but being boots on the ground, so to speak, getting the other information is huge. So, but I want to thank administration for putting all this together, obviously, and everything, and all the other commissioners who are learning, obviously. It's like drinking from a fire hose, and we all make mistakes, whether, in process and the rest, but we muscle through it. So, thank you.
No comment.
We do get $100 a month, if you're...
You don't have to get $100.
You don't have to.
You don't. I don't take any money. I'll tell you right now.
I'm just trying to put the incentive out there.
How many pennies per hour is that?
I think it's a little below minimum wage, just a skosh.
A little bit, yeah. Anyone on this side?
I just want to say thank you, because I think part of being here is I want to know what the community wants. I want to know what the people who live within Seward want. Because you can have all the books and all the regulations and all the big ideas, but if that's not what people want, that isn't what we should be trying to pass. And I like hearing from the community, and I like knowing, because this is going to impact people that live here and their family has lived here many, many generations. So this is where I stand with it.
Commissioner Hubbard?
And thank you for coming, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't really want to belabor the first resolution that we covered more, but I just want to, I really appreciate the effort that the applicant had put into this. I was looking back, and that she'd been working on it since May, and I was just thinking of just some different options and some different ways that that some people's what they want to do with their properties can be dealt with, and just the R3 is a big stretch as far as not everybody wants to share walls, share floors and ceilings, and I respect the need for R1 and R2, but I also think that there are ways that we can accommodate more density, but still keep it comfortable for the R1 population out there. And I just thank you for running a good meeting and coming up with your amendments and different ideas. It's always good, and staff too for fielding my questions and getting more clarity and being available. And the rest of the dais here, again, thanks for coming. may not all disagree, or all agree, but we can disagree friendly and keep working away. So, everybody have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, in the past 3 hours, the commission held 4 public hearings. The commission denied the rezone in Forest Acres from RR to R3, made recommendations to council on the definition and land uses allowed for animal shelter and veterinary services, commercial building apartments and mixed-use development, changes to the sign code, and review of the P&Z absence code. I really want to thank the public for all their effort, outstanding, outpouring, wish I had a picture, just filled the room. And I want to thank the staff for all your help with these complicated things that we're dealing with and your last minute hustle to get laydowns out for us and printed and distributed. You're getting your steps in going up and down these stairs. Jamie, thanks for the sturdy sawhorses that were sprinkling birch and spruce streets.
Thank my husband for that.
Yeah, those are pretty awesome. And the clerk's office for all your support behind the scenes. Deputy clerk for keeping track of this meeting, all its permutations. And the commission for their attendance, comments, and friendly discussion. Really appreciate it. I will now adjourn this meeting at 9:56 p.m.